Hello, and welcome to the final assignment, the final project, the portfolio. So congratulations on getting this far. This is just a quick instructional video to better understand this assignment. So if you were doing this assignment, hopefully you have completed all of the assignments leading up to the end. And so because of that, we as a department have decided that we would rather you basically present basically just this like a project of all of your work rather than making you take a final exam. So this will act as your final exam per se. But instead of doing a final exam that covers everything, instead what we decided to do was to look at all of your work and let you display that for us and tell us exactly why you feel like you met all the learning outcomes of the course. So the objective of the portfolio is an end of semester project to determine if students have mastered the learning outcomes of the course. Students will discuss the process they use to complete each assignment and what skills they have gained through each outcome. Okay, so what does that actually mean? So what that means is you are going to look at the 4 different learning outcomes of this course. So you might be surprised to realize that every course that you take has learning outcomes. And this is just for us as your instructors and professors to understand, okay, at the end of this class, what are the things that I want my students to be able to do? What skills should they possess? What should they now understand so they can build on those skills as they move forward? So this helps us as instructors kind of dictate what assignments we give you, what projects we do, what topics we cover. It gives us direction, and it also allows you to understand when you walk away, what exactly did I learn? What skills do I now have that I didn't have before? So our particular learning outcomes, we have 4. I'll go ahead and pull those up real quick and I'll come back to this. Let's see. All right, so we have 4 learning outcomes. The first one here is to apply communication theory, critical thinking skills, and listening skills to effectively communicate in a variety of situations. Okay, the next learning outcome, to demonstrate research and organizational skills in the development of a full sentence outline with citations. Learning outcome 3, demonstrate effective verbal and nonverbal presentation skills. Learning outcome 4, to analyze interpersonal communication scenarios by examining how a communication style affects decision-making and interpersonal competence. Okay, so that sounds really big, and maybe some of those words sound scary. But really what I'm saying we're saying in each one of these is, first, we want to know that you understand what communication theories are and how to apply them in different situations. So you've done this throughout this course. For my particular class, you probably did a lot of discussion questions that applied communication theory or forced you to apply communication theory to different situations. But for this particular assignment, I just went ahead and I just gave you some options for each one of the learning outcomes, so you know specifically which one of your assignments helped you learn this particular outcome. These particular assignments are the ones that you can choose to analyze within your portfolio. But from now, I'll just kind of leave it at this and we'll go back to the instructions. But I just wanted you to understand that these are the 4 things that I hope that you're able to do by the end of this course. All right, so going back to this, so you're going to look at the list of learning outcome. You're going to create an APA style. Okay, I guess I got ahead of myself. Let's look at the guidelines. You are going to create an APA formatted paper, which luckily I've already formatted for you. We didn't have enough time, since this isn't a comp class or anything. We don't really have a lot of time to fully discuss how to create a correct APA formatted paper. So I just went ahead and made it for you. So yay on that. But you'll just basically go through and you'll kind of you'll go through and put your information in where you're designated to, like whether it's your name or your thoughts or your example of your work, but you'll go through and you'll just format it the way that I've already done for you. All right, so as always, it should be Times New Roman 12-point font. The minimum page requirement is 10 pages. Well, that sounds really like, that's a lot. It's not. You're really doing just 4 short reflections, and then you're copy and pasting the work you've already done into the portfolio project. So really about, let's see, 4 of the pages, if not long or more, are going to be your just the work you've already done. Okay, then you're going to have maybe 4 pages of just short reflections. And so that takes up 8. And then you have a table of contents page and a cover page. So that's the full 10 pages. So I just wanted to clarify that because some students start freaking out when they see that 10-page minimum. Anyway, okay, so now we're down to the instruction. So you understand that there's 4 learning outcomes. So you're going to basically just reflect on the 4 and provide a at least one example of your work to prove that you've learned that learning outcome. All right, so you're going to look at the list that I showed you of the designated item, designated assignments you can use, and then you're going to do your reflection. So you're going to think about all of these steps. You're going to think about the process that you took in order to complete the assignment. Then you're going to look at the feedback and revisions. So that can be my feedback. It could be from a peer. It might be your own personal feedback. Like if it's something that you needed to analyze, or say you were analyzing something, you could talk about your own feedback. If there was any revisions you had to do for the work, like, your outline, you did multiple revisions of that. So you might talk about that. If there are no revisions, like the conflict management paper, there's not a revision that was required. So you can just say no revisions were necessary. All right, now personal realization. So this is where it's more about kind of you and your thoughts. So this is where I want you to talk about, like, what did you learn from completing the assignment? It can be your work habits. It could be more about, like, what did the assignment itself teach you? What realizations about yourself did you have? Anything like that. This is really just your thoughts. You're reflecting on what you learned from the assignment. Then you're going to look at skills. So now we're so in the personal realizations, this can be kind of anything you want it to be, whether that is, like I said, maybe work ethic, or if the particular assignment taught you something that you didn't realize you didn't know, or helped you in a certain way that you really feel like this was a really helpful assignment for some reason. That's kind of up to you. The skills analysis, though, is supposed to be where you specifically talk about how did the assignment that I chose provide the skill sets that are listed in the learning outcome. And sometimes you may pull in others. You may not necessarily analyze or include other assignments in the portfolio, but you can talk about, I also learned this skill through another assignment. You can kind of mention that, and we'll talk about that in a second. But specifically, this is where you're looking at what are the skills listed? How did I learn those skills? Or how do I know, do I effectively feel like I achieved those skills or can do what this is asking me to do? And then the last thing that you're going to do is just going to give yourself an achievement grade. This is not, and please hear this, this is not the grade you got on the assignment. This is the grade. You're grading yourself on how well you feel like you have achieved the learning outcome. How well can you, like moving forward, going forward, how well can you do what is asked in that learning outcome? But if that is creating an outline with citations, how well do you think you can do that moving forward? You just give yourself a grade. You do not have to analyze or give reasoning for your grade. You can literally just put the letter grade there. Okay, and then after that, then you'll need to provide the figures, which figures are just examples of your work. So this is work you've already done. This is like this is where you just copy and paste in the assignment that you chose to analyze. Okay, so let's look at the second page of this. Is basically what I just talked about, but this is the structure. This is the format that you're going to be using in order to complete each of your reflections. So you'll have the learning outcome title with the number. You'll have the learning outcome listed. You'll tell me which you'll list your evidences. You'll list the evidence, and this can either be 1. Or if you decide you want to include 2, you can. 2 is not required, only 1 is required, but some students on some of them just like to do or analyze 2 or talk about how they both in conjunction help them achieve the learning outcome. So either way is fine. Then you'll go through each section listing the information. Then you'll put your grade, again, just the letter grade of how well you think you achieved the learning outcome, not the grade you got on the assignment. And then following that will be the figure. And you will just put figured, meaning the example. So you'll just put figure, say for learning outcome 1, it would be figure 1-1. And then you just copy, you put the title of the assignment, whichever one you chose, and then you copy and paste your work that you already completed earlier. You just copy and paste it into the document. You do not have to fix anything from, like, if you submitted it and I gave you feedback, you don't have to fix anything from there. It's just literally whatever you submitted, just copy and paste it. Okay, so you're going to do that for each of your learning outcomes. So let's look at what's your options are. So the outcomes that you can, here are the four. For each one of these, like I said, you have certain assignments that you can use. Some of them have required assignments. So for this first learning outcome, you can choose between the introduction speech self-assessment or the peer review feedback. And again, you'll just talk about how that taught you how to apply communication theory, use critical thinking skills, and listening skills, and how that's going to help you effectively communicate in a variety of situations. Okay, then we're going to look at informative, then for the next one, for learning outcome 2, you are to, let's see, it says, for this learning outcome, you can do, you are required to use the informative speech final draft. Optionally, you can also include the reference page final draft. So you have to use the informative, but some students really like to also include the reference page because they tie in so closely together. Then for learning outcome 3, you are required to use the informative speech recording. So that one is required because, well, actually, now that I think about it, I don't know for sure if that is. So I'm kidding. This is optional. So either one, you can either use the introduction speech recording or the informative speech recording, or you can use both if you prefer. And then finally, the last one for learning outcome 4, you are to use the conflict management analysis paper. So that one you were required to use only that assignment. So anyway, so those are all the assignments that you can choose from. So hopefully you have done all those assignments, but you'll just go through and you will analyze, you'll go through and do your reflection on each one and copy and paste in. For the video specifically, you would just copy and paste the link of your video, or like the link to the recording of your video in. Okay, so let's look at the template real fast, and then we'll go through a student example. So here's the template. So like I said, when you download the template, this has already been done for you. You don't have to do anything except for here, put in your name. At the end, I suggest waiting till the very end that you completed all the pages to include this table of contents page, or table of contents, to update that, just so you know exactly which pages everything's going to be on. Okay, so on the template, I have already given you the learning outcome. You do not have to change this. Okay, I hope you hear me when I say that. Do not change this. So you won't have to change that. This particular one says the introduction speech self-assessment. Now remember, optionally, you can include, I guess you could do both if you want to, or you can either do this one, or you could change this to your to the peer review feedback assignment. So either one of those works. But then here you just go through the reflection, do all those things, give yourself an achievement grade, copy and paste. Now, again, if you choose to do the peer review feedback instead, you'll just want to change this title to the peer review feedback and copy and paste that assignment in. Also, I do want to mention, see on here, it says figure 1.1, figure 2.1, all those. If you decide to use more than one figure, meaning more than one piece of evidence or work to reflect on, you would just add, like say I did, well, on this one, you choose one, but say on this one, I chose my outline and my reference page. Then I would just put in here 2.2, and then I would add the page number. Okay, so that's what you would do. Of course, if you don't do that, then you would just delete the figure, obviously. So we just go through and copy and paste in. Again, I've given you the learning outcome already listed. All you have to do is select which one. Remember, the outline is required. The reference page is optional. So if you're not using the reference page, just make sure to delete that figure. All right, so I have that in there for you. Again, you'll want, since I only have the one figure, you'll want to add another page with figure 2.2 if you include the reference page as well. Oh, and I want to say too, figures should always start, or I guess each reflection and each example of your work should start on their own page. So say that you have, like, you only write half a page here, your figure should still start on the next page. Okay, then same with learning outcome 3. Remember, you can choose either your intro or informative speech presentation or both. To analyze, then you would just post the link to your recording of your speech. If you choose both, then you will just list both figures on the same page, since this is the only this is the only one that I let you do both on the same page, just because since it's just a link, it's kind of silly to add an extra page, but just FYI. And then again, learning outcome 4. So that would be You have to use a conflict management analysis paper, so just make sure to do that. You'll do your reflection and then copy and paste. So lastly, and then I'll be done. Here is the example of a student example. Okay, so I took her name out, but you would want to add that in. Obviously, you'd be your name there. See how she does her table of contents. She chose to do two assignments, to analyze two of her pieces of work or evidence, figures, whatever. She just had two figures for learning outcome 2 and 3. So you see how she added those figure headings. So you'll want to do that. And then again, too, you only have to put the first number, or the first page number. So like say like her, notice here, her figure 2.1 started on page 7. And then her figure 2.2 started on page 10, which tells me that this particular assignment was kind of long, which makes sense. It was her outline. So she wouldn't say 7 through 9. She would just write 7. Okay, just like a regular table of contents. All right, so this is kind of a good amount. You know, if you write about this much, that is good. So the process description is going to be pretty straightforward. You're just telling me the steps it took to complete the assignments. And think back, like on the outline, you have lots of steps. On this, if you chose the self-assessment, then the self-assessment, you had to first complete the speech first, right? And then write the assessment. So you wouldn't want to just say, well, to do this, I just watched my speech. Well, the first step was actually to select a topic. Then you had to write your outline. Then you had to present your speech. Then you analyze your recording, right? So you want to think about all of those things. Then feedback and revision. So talk about you might give any feedback that I gave you. However, on this particular assignment, I'll just let you know, like I'm not going to give you a ton of feedback because it's your insights. So it's your reflection on how you think you did. So really what I'm going to say is more so like, did you follow all the writing guidelines? Did you really answer the questions that were in each section? Right. You could talk about here if you want to, you could talk about that, my feedback, or you could talk about maybe some feedback that you'd give yourself, or even the feedback that you wrote within your within the assignment for your speech. You could kind of talk about that and how you used it, how you used this assignment in for your next speech to kind of help you develop. Right. So while you didn't do necessarily a revision, it did help you prepare for the next speech. So in that section, you can kind of use feedback however you would want to. You can talk about mine. So just to clarify, you can talk about the feedback I give you, feedback you'd give yourself, how it maybe helped you prepare for another assignment, or you could talk about, in this particular situation, you could talk about the actual feedback that you provided to yourself. Okay, so then personal realizations, again, this is just where you talk about what did you learn? And this particular student talked a lot about, you know, as she was analyzing herself, what she noticed that she did, how she wanted to correct those things, and then her skills analysis. Now, this is the one area, and I hope you'll listen in because this is important. The skills analysis is the one section that I would say, you know, I'm really going to be honing in on these personal realizations and these skills, the skills analysis. The skills analysis, the one thing I didn't love about what she did is she didn't specifically mention this, like I guess the skills listed in the learning outcome, meaning she didn't really state how, like, she gave kind of a general idea of the skills that she learned from the assignment. She did not specify how did that show that she can apply communication theory? How can she use critical thinking skills? How did she utilize listening skills? And why does she feel like she can effectively communicate in a variety of situations? So it's important to me that you actually say those things. Like say, apply, like I feel like I am better at applying communication theory because as I assessed myself, I really thought about the verbal components and like the communication process as I developed this, right? Because with the self-assessment, as you analyze yourself, you're thinking about how was my message construction, right? How well did I create shared meaning, right? That's what you're really looking at, especially for that verbal component aspect. You use active listening for whenever you're analyzing yourself. You had to actively listen, give all of your attention, right? You use perception because all of this is from your own perception. Whether or not like you felt like you did adequately on your speech. That is perception, and analyzing that and thinking, using active listening skills and critical thinking skills to really work through like, okay, through with active listening, I'm attending to my message. I'm thinking about how does the message really create shared meaning? Does it really connect with me? Critical thinking skills. Okay, how would this be perceived? How is this going to be perceived to an audience through perception, right? And then they effectively communicate in a variety of situations. You're looking at here specifically you as a speaker, a professional speaker. So that is a particular communication situation that you are analyzing your ability to communicate in. So see how all those things really apply. I really want you to mention specifically how the assignment, whichever one you choose, either this or the peer review feedback, how did it teach you to apply communication theory? I won't go through all of it again, but how did it help you achieve these actual skills? Okay, so then she gave herself a letter grade, again, not based on her assignment. What did she get on the assignment? But more so, how well she feels like she can do the outcome. And again, this isn't going to dictate your grade in any way. It's just your perception. And then she copies and pastes her self-assessment in. Puts that in there. Then she goes to learning outcome 2. She does the same thing. Like I said, she chose to use both her outline and her reference page. So she has both figures listed here. If you choose not to use the reference page, just make sure to delete the second figure. She does the exact same thing, analyzes, gives herself a grade. Then she copies and pastes her figure 2.1, which is her outline, in. Then she copies and pastes her final draft in of her reference page. And notice again, they're on, well, I guess it kind of looks like it just was on the next one, but remember that each figure should start on their own page, except for for learning outcome 3. But okay, so here we are at learning outcome 3, and I'll show you what I mean. So she chose to analyze both her intro and informative speech. Again, you can choose one. And then see, she gave herself a B. This is the one I was saying you can put both on the same page since they're just a link. And I didn't feel like you really need to put on 2 pages. Probably, technically you should, but I'm okay with you just put it on the same. All right, so learning outcome 4. I do notice that there should be some deleting here, right? Okay, so you'd want to do that, but here's learning outcome listed. She did the conflict management paper, reflection, and then that kind of messed that up. She didn't have it like that. But okay, so then she gave herself an A, and then she copies and pastes her document in there. So, okay, so that is really it. And that was the last page of hers. So you see that there's really only 4 analysis. You only are analyzing or really doing 4 pieces of work. But you just copy and paste the other things in there. Anyway, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm always happy to help, but good luck on your final project, and I know you're going to do great.